Why are you still here? Why, after everything you've survived, the betrayals, the empty bank accounts, the nights you begged God for just one break, why are you still standing when others with half your faith have already quit? And here's the question that should terrify your enemies. What if your poverty was never punishment, but preparation for a wealth transfer so sudden, so violent, that it will rewrite your family tree in a single season? Chosen one, you might want to sit down for this, because what's about to land in your life isn't luck, it's not a lottery ticket, it's not some motivational fantasy. This is transfer, the kind of supernatural, earth-shaking, bloodline-flipping transfer that makes heaven's enemies panic in boardrooms they thought they owned. God is moving money right now, not slowly, not eventually, right now, from the hands of the faithless into the accounts of the faithful. And if you've been walking through a season that felt like punishment, if you've been wondering why the wicked prosper while you scrape by on fumes and faith, let me tell you something that'll make your spirit stand at season. Attention, you weren't being overlooked, you were being positioned. See, sudden wealth in the wrong hands creates chaos, but sudden wealth in your hands, that's divine strategy. That's generational demolition of poverty. That's the kind of abundance that doesn't just change your address, it changes your assignment. And here's what they don't want you to know. Over 70% of people who receive sudden wealth lose it all within 5 years. Not because money is cursed, but because they were never forged in the fire you've been walking through. They got the blessing without the breaking, the provision without the preparation. But you've been refined, tested, stripped, rebuilt. So when this hits, and chosen one, it will hit. It won't destroy you, it will deploy you. If something in your chest is stirring right now, if you feel that holy rumble in your spirit, type "I receive it." Not as superstition, as agreement with heaven. Because faith isn't passive, it's a signature on a divine contract. And listen, thank you to every single soul who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just giving, you're sowing seeds into a movement that's waking up the warriors heaven has been hiding. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful. Your presence here, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message is shaking something loose in your soul, go ahead, let it. Now, let's talk about what's really coming. Why have you been faithful for 40 years and still struggling to pay rent? Why did you give your tithes when you couldn't afford groceries, prayed until your knees went numb, believed when everyone else quit, and yet the wicked around you built empires while you built character? Nobody seemed to notice. And here's the question that's been burning in your chest at 3 in the morning. If God is real, if He truly sees you, then why has abundance felt like a cruel joke told at your expense? Let me tell you something that's going to shatter the lie you've been believing. That delay, it wasn't denial, it was divine camouflage. God wasn't ignoring your prayers. He was hiding you, shielding you from wolves dressed in business suits who would have drained every drop of the abundance heaven was preparing to pour into your hands. You see, chosen one, you've been watching prosperity flow to people who don't even know God's name. You've seen liars get promotions, cheaters buy vacation homes, manipulators build platforms, and you stood there, faithful, obedient, tithing off your social security check, wondering if heaven was taking notes or taking a nap. But here's what you couldn't see from ground level. While they were counting dollars, heaven was counting discipline. While they were stacking wealth, you were stacking character. And the difference between the two, their wealth will evaporate. Yours will multiply because it's not landing in broken hands. It's landing in prepared hands. Think about this for a moment. If that money had come 20 years ago, who would have been standing next to you? That cousin who only calls when they need something. That friend who smiled in your face and stole behind your back. That business partner who would have sweet-talked you into signing away your future. God knew. He saw the leeches circling, So he kept you in the shadows until the snakes got tired of waiting and slithered away. The delay was protection, not punishment. You're like a seed, beloved. And I know the soil looked like a grave. The darkness felt like abandonment. You wondered if you'd been buried alive, forgotten, left to rot in obscurity. But seeds aren't buried as an ending. They're buried as an investment. And what's about to break through the surface of your life will feed generations you haven't even met yet. Habakkuk 2-3 says it plain. Though it linger, wait for it. It will certainly come, and will not delay. Read that again. It will not delay. Not according to heaven's calendar. Your struggle wasn't slow. It was precise. Every year of waiting was a year of refinement. Every closed door was God slamming shut access to people who would have contaminated your calling. Every silent season was Him building something in you that money can't buy and hell can't break. Integrity under pressure. See, sudden wealth is easy to get. Lottery tickets prove that. But sudden wealth in the hands of someone who hasn't been tested, that's a disaster waiting to go viral. That's why 70% of lottery winners lose everything within 5 years. They got the blessing without the breaking, the harvest without the burial, the crown without the crucifixion. But you've been in the fire so long that when this wealth lands, it won't burn you. It will forge you into something the enemy can't touch, can't bribe, can't break. The waiting wasn't punishment, chosen one. It was proof that heaven could trust you with what hell tried to steal. And now? Now the season is shifting. The gates are opening. The transfer is in motion. But here's what you need to understand before we go any further. This next level isn't just about receiving, it's about stewardship. It's about being trusted with kingdom resources to do kingdom work. So let me ask you this, and I want you to feel this question in your bones. Are you ready to be trusted with wealth that comes with an assignment bigger than your bank account? If that just hit your spirit, if something in you just stood at attention, comment, "He can trust me now." Because that's what this next season is about, not just provision, trust. And what's coming next will prove why you had to wait this long to receive it. Listen closely, chosen one, because what I'm about to tell you will shake everything you thought you knew about provision. The world is screaming recession. They're panicking over inflation, interest rates, layoffs. Wall Street analysts are predicting collapse. Your neighbors are tightening their belts. The news feeds you fear every single morning. But while Earth's economy is trembling, heaven's economy is transferring. God isn't bound by the Federal Reserve. He doesn't check the stock market before He moves. And right now, right this second, He's orchestrating the greatest financial redistribution in a generation. Not because you begged, not because you manipulated, but because timing has aligned with testing, and you've been found faithful. Proverbs 13:22 says it plainly. The wealth of the sinner is laid up for the righteous. Not suggested, not metaphorical. Laid up, stored, prepared, assigned. Your name has been on resources you haven't even touched yet. Accounts you didn't open, opportunities you didn't apply for, doors you never knocked on. Because this isn't about your hustle, chosen one. This is about heaven's justice. You're not standing in front of a drought. You're standing before a dam that's about to break. And when it does, the flood won't trickle. It will roar. It will sweep away every lie that told you scarcity was your portion. Every voice that said you'd never escape survival mode. Every system designed to keep you beneath their boots. Think about the widow in 2 Kings 4. 1 jar of oil, that's all she had. Creditors at her door. Sons about to be taken as slaves. Everything collapsing. But Elisha didn't give her a motivational speech. He gave her instructions. Gather empty vessels, not a few. And that oil? It didn't stop pouring until there were no more jars to fill. The same God who turned her last drop into overflow is about to turn your last dime into destiny. But here's what you need to understand, and this is where most people miss it. This wealth transfer isn't just financial, it's foundational. God isn't just shifting money, He's shifting systems. He's rewriting the flow of influence, access, and authority. He's pulling resources out of the hands of those who've abused them and placing them into the hands of those who've been audited by affliction. Heaven's accounting department has been watching you. Every sacrifice you made when no one was looking, every time you chose integrity over shortcuts, every season you stayed generous, even when you were scraping by. Those weren't random acts of character. Those were deposits into an account heaven has been compounding with interest calculated through your tears. The checks that bounced in your past, they're about to be redeemed in your present with the kind of interest that only divine mathematics can calculate. Heaven doesn't just restore what was stolen, it multiplies it until your enemies choke on the evidence. So right now, I need you to do something. Declare it out loud. Say it with your whole chest. Transfer in progress. Don't whisper it. Don't think it. Speak it. Write it in the comments. Shout it into your living room, because angels don't respond to doubt. They respond to bold voices that agree with heaven's decree. But here's the twist that's going to blow your mind, chosen one. What if I told you this wealth transfer isn't coming to you, but through you? What if you're not the destination, you're the distribution center? What if God is about to flood your life with resources, not so you can hoard them, but so you can release them, not so you can flex, but so you can fund what hell has been starving for generations? That's the level you're stepping into. Not just provision for your household, provision that flows through your hands into bloodlines, ministries, missions, and movements that have been suffocating under lack. This isn't about you getting comfortable. This is about you becoming dangerous. Dangerous to poverty, dangerous to systems of oppression, dangerous to every principality that's kept God's people broken. So the question isn't if the transfer is coming. The question is, are you ready to carry it without collapsing? Now let me show you something most preachers won't tell you. Something that'll make you uncomfortable. But chosen one, discomfort is where transformation lives. Over 70% of people who come into sudden wealth lose every single dollar within 5 years. Lottery winners, athletes, business people, even believers. They got the money, but the money exposed what was rotting inside them all along. Because here's the brutal truth. Money doesn't change you, it reveals you. Think about that. Really sit with it. When you had $20 in your account, you could hide your character flaws. You could mask your greed, your insecurity, your need for validation. Poverty kept those demons quiet because you didn't have the resources to feed them. But wealth is a spotlight. It drags every hidden wound, every unhealed trauma, every secret addiction into the open. It hands your demons a megaphone and says, "Show me who you really are." That's why God made you wait. Not because he forgot you, not because he was punishing you, but because he refused to give you something that would destroy you. He loved you too much to hand you a blessing your character couldn't carry. So he let the fire burn. He let the pressure build. He let you sit in that cramped apartment, in that broken down car, in that season where you had to choose faith over food. You thought it was suffering. God called it surgery. Because wealth in the wrong hands is poison. In yours, it's purpose. Let me take you to 1 Timothy 6. For the love of money is the root of all evil. Not money itself. The love of it, the worship of it, the idolatry that makes you bow to bank accounts instead of the God who fills them. You see, money is neutral. It's a tool, a mirror. And when you look into that mirror, what you see will either crown you or crush you. When you had nothing, you prayed with desperation. God saw that sincerity. He watched you cry out in the middle of the night when nobody else was listening. He recorded every tear, every whispered plea, every moment you chose worship over worry. And now he's testing whether you can stay humble when the zeros appear. Whether you'll remember his name when your name starts trending, because this is the test most people fail. They get the blessing and forget the blesser. They step into abundance and abandon the altar. They trade intimacy for image, and God, in His mercy, will strip it all away before He lets it strip away your soul. But you're different. You've been purified by fire, pressed like oil from pain, gold refined in flames that would have melted lesser vessels. Proverbs 17:3 says, "The refining pot is for silver, and the furnace for gold, but the Lord tests the hearts." He didn't test your wallet, He tested your heart. And you passed every exam poverty threw at you. So when this wealth transfer hits, and it will hit like a tidal wave, it won't corrupt you. It will magnify your mission. It won't make you arrogant. It will make you dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. Because a humble person with resources is a weapon hell can't defend against. Money doesn't corrupt chosen ones. It reveals they were ready all along. So let me ask you directly, are you ready for stewardship, not showmanship? Are you prepared to use this wealth to build, not to boast? To fund the forgotten, not to flex for the crowd? Because if you can answer yes, if your spirit is leaping right now with holy conviction, then type it, "I'm ready for stewardship, not showmanship." That's not a slogan. That's a covenant. And if you just type those words, heaven heard you. Angels took note. Demons trembled. Because you just declared you won't be like the 70% who crumble. You'll be the 30% who carry it with grace, multiply it with wisdom, and deploy it with purpose. Now here's what happens next. Once you pass the internal test, you face the external war. And trust me, chosen one, the battle outside is fiercer than anything you felt inside. Let me ask you something that's gonna sting for a second. Do you remember that business deal that fell apart at the last minute? The one where you had everything lined up, the contract was ready, the handshake was warm, the money was close enough to taste, and then, out of nowhere, it vanished. No explanation, no closure, just silence. Or what about that partnership you begged God for? You prayed, you fasted, you believed with everything in you that this was your moment. But the door slammed shut so hard it left marks on your spirit. And then there were the people, the ones who ghosted you, the investors who suddenly went cold, the mentors who promised they'd open doors but disappeared the moment you needed them most. You called it rejection. Heaven called it protection. Chosen one, I need you to hear this with every fiber of your being. Those weren't failures. Those were divine interventions. God wasn't ignoring your prayers. He was answering them in a language you didn't yet understand. Because what you thought was opportunity was actually a trap dressed in a three-piece suit. What looked like a blessing was a contract with hell's finest print at the bottom. You were being hidden, not punished, not overlooked, hidden. Exodus 33:22 says it this way, "I will hide you in the cleft of the rock until my glory passes by." Moses wasn't abandoned in that cave. He was secured. God wasn't rejecting him. He was shielding him from a glory so intense it would have destroyed him if he'd been exposed too soon. That's what happened to you. While you were crying over closed doors, God was standing between you and counterfeits who would have drained you dry. Those investors you thought you needed, they had agendas you couldn't see, hidden clauses, demonic strings attached. They weren't coming to partner with you, they were coming to own you, to bleed your vision, hijack your calling, and leave you bankrupt in every way that matters. But God said, not this one. He pulled you back, hid you in the cleft, kept you out of rooms where your gifts would have been exploited. Your anointing would have been commercialized, and your destiny would have been sold to the highest bidder. Think about it. Every door that stayed locked wasn't a no to your future. It was a not them to your protection. Every partnership that dissolved wasn't about your worth, it was about their unworthiness to carry what you're called to build. God wasn't withholding, He was guarding. And here's the part that should make your enemies nervous. While you were hidden, you were also being prepared, refined, strengthened, trained to recognize the smell of a setup. Because sudden wealth doesn't just attract blessings, chosen one. It attracts predators. And if you'd stepped into abundance 5 years ago, surrounded by the wrong voices, the wrong contracts, the wrong partners, you wouldn't be celebrating today. You'd be buried under legal battles, betrayals, and bondage you couldn't afford to escape. But now you've been through the fire. You've learned to hear God's voice above the noise. You've been stripped of the desperation that makes people sign their souls away for a check. You're no longer starving for validation, which means you can finally see manipulation for what it is. Your no's were never losses. They were heaven's security codes keeping the hackers out. Every ghosted conversation was a firewall. Every failed negotiation was a divine block. God was running background checks you didn't even know you needed. And now, here's what's about to happen. The right partnerships are coming. Not the flashy ones. Not the ones that stroke your ego. The aligned ones. The ones with clean hands, pure motives, and assignments that match yours. The wealth transfer that's heading your way won't come through contaminated channels. It's coming through vessels God Himself has vetted. So let me ask you this, can you finally see it? Can you look back at every closed door, every silent phone, every broken promise, and recognize the hand of God standing guard over your future? If this word is confirming what you've lived through, don't just nod, type it out. He hid me for this. Because you weren't forgotten. You were guarded. And what's coming next will prove that every delay was deliberate. Now here's the question that should shake you to your core. If God protected you this fiercely in your season of lack, what do you think He's about to do now that your season of abundance has arrived? Now listen closely, chosen one, because what I'm about to tell you will shatter every shallow sermon you've ever heard about prosperity. This wealth transfer that's coming, it's not about dollar bills. It's not about luxury cars or vacation homes or proving something to people who never believed in you. That's surface-level thinking. That's what carnal minds chase while heaven is preparing something far more dangerous, far more powerful. You're not getting wealth, you're becoming it. Let that sink in for a moment. You are not waiting for a blessing to arrive. You are the blessing that's been hidden, refined, and prepared for release. God didn't just decide to give you money. He's been transforming you into a living, breathing conduit of kingdom resources. You're not the recipient, you're the channel. The Bible says in Deuteronomy 8:18, "But remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you the ability to produce wealth." Not just wealth itself, chosen one, but the ability to produce it. That's capacity. That's divine empowerment. That means when this transfer hits, it won't be a one-time event. It'll be a permanent shift in your spiritual DNA. You think you've been broke all these years? No. You've been in boot camp. Every dollar you stretched, every bill you paid on faith, every night you went without so your children could eat, that wasn't lack. That was training. You were learning stewardship in the shadows so you could be trusted with abundance in the light. And here's what terrifies the enemy. You didn't become bitter. You became better. You didn't curse God. You worshipped Him harder. That kind of faithfulness in famine is what qualifies you for the feast. The first million you touch isn't a trophy to put on a shelf. It's a trumpet. It's heaven's declaration that you are ready for kingdom business, real business, generational business. The kind that doesn't just buy you comfort, but breaks chains that have held your family captive for 100 years. God didn't just make you wealthy, chosen one. He made you worthy. Do you understand what that means? For decades, maybe your whole life, you've wondered why others got the breaks while you got the bruises. You watched people with half your integrity live in abundance while you scraped by on prayers and pennies, and the question burned in your chest. God, why not me? Because they couldn't carry what you're about to carry. You are the seed bank of heaven. You're not just holding money, you're carrying blueprints for cities not yet built, schools not yet opened, shelters for the broken, platforms for the silenced. Inside you right now are solutions to problems your community doesn't even know how to name. But you couldn't release them without resources. and you couldn't be trusted with resources until you'd been tested in scarcity. Money doesn't chase trends, chosen one. Money chases anointing. Money flows toward meaning. And you reek of purpose. That's why you felt so out of place in shallow spaces. That's why small talk exhausts you. That's why you can't stomach fake people anymore. You've been marked for a mission that requires more than a fat bank account. It requires a pure heart. Proverbs 13:22 says, "A good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, but the wealth of the sinner is stored up for the righteous." Read that again. Stored up, not earned by them, not deserved by them. Stored, held, waiting. And now, in this hour, there's a transfer happening. What was hoarded by the faithless is being released to the faithful. And here's the revelation that should make your spirit stand up and shout. The wealth transfer isn't landing in your bank account first. It's landing in your identity. You're not waiting for money. Money is waiting for you to awaken. The moment you stop seeing yourself as a beggar and start seeing yourself as a builder, the floodgates crack open. The moment you stop asking, "Why me?" and start declaring, "Why not me?" that's when heaven moves. Because God doesn't pour billion-dollar assignments into people still thinking like broke employees. So let me ask you directly. Who told you that you weren't supposed to be wealthy? Who planted that lie in your spirit? Was it religion? Was it poverty? Was it people who were jealous of the calling they saw in you before you even saw it yourself? Shake it off. Right now. Because you are not an accident. You are not overlooked. You are not forgotten. You are the transfer. If this revelation just cracked something open in your soul, if you feel that holy fire rising in your chest, don't hold it in. Shout it in the comments right now. I am the transfer. Because heaven responds to recognition. Heaven moves when the chosen finally own who they are. And chosen one, if you're ready to walk into what's next, you need to understand something critical about the warfare that's coming. Chosen one, let me leave you with this. You are not waiting for a miracle. You are the miracle that's been prepared in secret. This wealth transfer isn't just about money landing in your account. It's about you finally understanding that you were never broke, you were being built. You were never forgotten, you were being positioned. And you were never alone, you were being anointed for a moment like this. Remember this, delay was not denial. It was divine strategy. Every closed door, every unanswered prayer, every night you cried yourself to sleep, wondering when your breakthrough would come, all of it was preparation.